Welcome back to another episode of Built from the Inside Out. Today we'll be talking about a topic that has been very trendy lately. And who better to have with me than licensed professional counselor Andrea Estrada.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, I'm super excited with the topic. Lots of
hmm
experience on both
Yeah.
sides, I'll say.
Okay, so for those listening, we'll be talking about toxic relationships. It has been very trendy as of lately. El tóxica, la tóxica, el tóxico, and
Mm-hmm.
people are starting to see it as something good instead of something unhealthy. And
Yeah,
I think that's something we need to address and talk about.
I think so. Yeah.
Let's start off with you telling us about yourself, what your credentials are, and then we'll go into the topic.
Okay, great. So my name's Andrea Estrada, and I am a licensed professional counselor. I completed my bachelor's degree in psychology at the Texas A&M University Corpus Christi campus, and then I did go on to get my master's degree at the University of Houston. And after that, I had to go through taking an exam and be supervised with indirect and direct hours to get this certification or my credentials for
hmm
LPC. And
Okay.
then I actually also did something on the side of taking certification for life coaching, and I've kind of incorporated that to develop some confidence coaching skills and business on the side outside of my counseling too.
Okay, that's awesome. And what made you want to study psychology?
So I think back to high school.
hmm
I was kind of that person that my friends always seemed to come to talk to, and they, mentioned how I was a good listener. I seemed to always have maybe some good advice, and I remember watching one of my favorite TV shows, which is Frasier. I don't know if you've seen it,
I
but
haven't.
oh, such a good show. And he's a psychiatrist that actually is on the radio, and he's answering calls throughout the day and helping people with advice, but it's a
hmm
comedy. And so he,
Okay.
I just saw how he was able to help people.
hmm
And it really worked. It really seemed like there was a lesson at each episode. And I was
Okay.
like, got me thinking of people, experience like emotional struggles and stuff, and how do they get help? And
hmm
that's kind of where it started. And then you start to see movies and uh, probably more negative portrayals of what mental health really is. and
Right.
and I just knew that I was going to help people. I didn't know exactly how. And then
hmm
after watching those episodes on Frasier, I really said, you know what, this is where I want to be, and I want to advocate and help and get into mental health. So that's where I started.
I'll have to watch it because I love watching those kind of shows.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of oldie. You'll see from
Okay.
like the scenes and stuff. It's like an old sitcom. So
Okay.
you
Have you watched Lie to Me?
Lie to Me, no.
I think you'll like it.
Is it on Netflix or Hulu, or where could I?
I don't know where it's at. Maybe Amazon Prime, maybe?
Okay, yeah.
I don't know.
Got
I'll
it.
send it to you.
Lie to Me. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love watching all those kinds of shows.
I think you'll like it. Yeah.
Sweet. Okay.
Okay, so what would you say a toxic relationship looks like or what defines it?
Yeah, so when we talk about relationships, I think it's helpful to look at relationships on a spectrum.
Mm,
So you have like on one end of the spectrum, what's considered maybe healthy, where you have characteristics of love, genuine respect, kindness, and
mhm,
then you have further down the spectrum where this unhealthiness might start to be visible in, different patterns of maybe lying, or maybe there is some manipulation, or things where there's not so much support. Then I think even further down the road is where you do get that extreme where there's abuse in the relationship,
mm,
whether that's physical or economic, or emotional abuse, because at that point it is intentional
mm,
that there's
mm,
there's harm wanting to be inflicted, and it's now more intentional. Whereas in the healthiest part of it, it's probably innocently just not knowing and understanding, but
mhm,
recognizing it and then trying to get better at it. But on the other far opposite end, that's where you'll start to see a lot of that unhealthy abusive situations or more intense situations. And And in the healthy part, unhealthy relationships, you can start to see when things, maybe negative behaviors or patterns happening, that's where
Mhm.
then that toxicity starts to build.
Okay.
And that's kind of how I like to look at relationships on a spectrum.
Okay, so for like example, what's really trendy right now, from what I've seen online, and obviously there's probably a lot more, but the main thing I see is like jealousy. So,
Mhm.
oh, you can't go out because la tóxica, or I can't go out because el tóxico, and I think jealousy is the main thing that's being trendy right now. I don't know if you've seen any other.
Mm. So jealousy, it's
Mhm.
such an intense emotion
Mhm.
that we experience, and I kind of associate that with then controlling, and that's where the whole like no, you can't go out kind of thing happens,
Mhm.
and jealousy can be, if it not treated or it's not addressed, it can
Mhm.
definitely go into that area of becoming abusive in a sense towards your partner, and yeah, so jealousy, it can become a reoccurring pattern that you're experiencing with your partner. If you're the one experiencing the
Mhm.
jealousy, you might have a hand in the toxicity of the relationship.
Yeah. So I've even seen trucks where it says "Tengo novia" or something like "Tóxica, don't talk to me porque tengo tóxica" or something like that. So I feel like they're starting to glorify it instead of being like it's an unhealthy
Yeah.
characteristic trait or whatever you want to call it.
Okay, so it kind of sounds like they are proud of it, that they
Exactly.
have a jealous girlfriend
Right.
because it means that you care about me, or it means that they care so much. That is so inaccurate, and that's not healthy. That's
Yeah.
not healthy. Um,
So of course I feel like a little bit of jealousy is normal and maybe even a
Absolutely.
little healthy, but to what extent would you say it gets unhealthy?
Yeah. So, jealousy, I mean, I think it's, we need that in a sense to kind of wake us up, or it does create this feeling of like, oh, where is this coming from? It
Mhm.
feels uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good. So what's really going on here?
Mhm.
And so that can definitely get us to look at things and see maybe what's not working, or whether it's with ourselves or our partner, you
Mhm.
know? And how can I address this? Because that's what healthy couples do. They talk about those things.
Right.
They talk about then the feeling of jealousy,
Yeah.
and so they can clarify on both ends. What might be contributing to these feelings, and then they can address it and move on.
Right.
Yeah.
So then I guess you would have like let's say either partner's feeling jealous, they address it with the partner, but it doesn't resolve anything. Maybe the partner tries to make it sound like the person's crazy or, you know.
So when you bring that up, that kind of
Mhm.
makes me think of with gaslighting. That's
Okay.
definitely an example of gaslighting or manipulation in a sense. In healthy relationships doesn't mean you take away all negative feelings. It just
Mhm.
means, yeah, they come up and you talk about them and they get solved. However, if you have a partner that's in the relationship where gaslighting and manipulation is like their go-to tool in a sense to use, then we got a different problem on our hands. It sounds like we might have a narcissist maybe on our hands, and
Okay.
the problem,
So,
yeah.
yeah, I wanted to talk about the subjects gaslighting, narcissism. What are they? What's the difference between those words? What exactly is it for anyone listening who might have never heard those terms before?
Yeah, sure. Narcissist. This is somebody who is entitled. They feel entitled. They have this grandiose or self-inflated view of themselves,
Okay.
and they're actually quite fragile people, because what makes them fragile is that they have this high expectation of themselves and view of themselves, but
Mhm.
they are seeking constantly for the external validation to meet that. And so when you have that, it's just a recipe for thin skin, and anything could break that. And when it's
Okay.
broken, the narcissist does not like to be exposed. They do not appreciate that. And so they will go and use their go-to tool of gaslighting. So
Okay.
gaslighting is a tool that narcissists love to use, like second nature for them.
And what is that exactly?
Yeah, so gaslighting, some people consider it a form of emotional abuse because the narcissist or the person who's using this tool will doubt or even question another person's feelings or thoughts or values or beliefs. And so
Mhm.
it leaves that person really feeling confused and like starting to really think about and question themselves.
Mm.
And so that's kind of um, the start of maybe some toxic patterns that might reoccur. And when you're in a in a relationship with prolonged gaslighting or, doubt and confused feelings about yourself, that's going
Mhm.
to cause some long-term damage to our mental health. So that's why it's considered emotional abuse.
Right. And then if you move on and go to a different relationship, you probably take some of that with you.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So, some signs of gaslighting. If you notice that your partner, or this can happen in jobs, in the workforce, in the
Mhm.
workplace, amongst your friends, your family, any relationships, really. If you notice your partner start to say things like, "You're so sensitive.
Mm.
You're you're just too emotional," or "You have no right to feel angry or upset." It's
Mm.
You are telling that person basically that they are not allowed to their emotional world,
Right.
what they're experiencing.
That their emotions aren't valid.
Yeah, they are basically dismissing and invalidating the other person's feelings, and that's just not okay.
Yeah.
That's toxic. That's a form of gaslighting.
Mhm.
Another sign of gaslighting is when they say, "I didn't do that. That never happened." So kind of just like straight up lying.
Mhm.
And you know for a fact, no, this was said,
Yeah.
you did do this, like, you know, and they will deny it, and they will truly make you start to believe that, make you question yourself, like, did it really happen that way?
Mm.
You know,
Mhm.
am I really thinking this happened and it didn't? So that's kind of, yeah, that's another sign of gaslighting. So when they just straight up deny it.
And then do you think they make that person think like, "Oh, maybe I was wrong," and then they put up with it,
That's what
and
the
then
result is.
yeah.
And if someone who doesn't recognize that that's what's happening,
Mhm.
they're the ones that end up staying in these relationships because they don't recognize or understand what's happening.
Mhm.
And after so many times of doing this over and over again, they are slowly giving away themselves in a way, right?
Right.
They're slowly, yeah, conforming in a sense to what the narcissist is planting on them in a sense. Oh,
Mhm.
so that's another sign of gaslighting is projecting.
Okay.
Projecting. Let me give a good example of projecting. So,
That's
so
closer.
so, say you have an issue that you want to address and you want to bring up in the relationship.
Mhm.
And so you say, "Hey, I want to talk about this, XYZ." The narcissist will say, "Oh, okay, yeah. Remember 2 years ago when you did this and that?" Oh, sorry.
Mhm. It's okay.
Yeah. Um, so they completely avoid and ignore what the current problem and the whole conversation was about
Okay.
because they do not want to be the light of negativity, right? They don't want to
Mm.
be seen in a negative light. So I'm going to go and, you know,
Flip it.
yes, flip it. Sorry, it's deflection, not projection.
Okay.
I apologize. It's deflecting. That's
Okay.
deflecting. Sorry.
Mhm.
And so, yes, they will flip that. They will flip the
Mm.
script. And
So now you're the bad guy and he's
yes,
the victim.
yes,
Mm-mm-mm.
so messed up. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And so again, if someone doesn't recognize these behaviors as gaslighting and not okay, they kind of just like, you're right. Okay. Yeah, I did do that a long time ago. And they
Mm.
completely forget what the whole conversation to begin with was about.
Yeah. And I feel like that does happen a lot, and especially in women. I feel like they're not like, no, these are my feelings and my feelings are valid. So I'm going to say what I feel and you're going to accept the fact that this is how I'm feeling and we're
Yes.
going to find a way to work it out.
Yes.
Instead, they're like, oh, maybe he's right. Or
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, sometimes they're scared that he'll leave, even though he's doing more harm being there.
Right. And that could be where some old messages or old patterns from old behaviors coming in or something else going on of why they need that relationship. They're
Mm,
dependent on that relationship.
right.
Um, and we think, well, why don't, more people just speak up and say what's going on, what's really happening? But
Mm-hmm.
one, they either really don't know what that looks like or they try to.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing with narcissists, when you try to speak logic and validation and all that to them,
Mm-hmm.
it goes right over them. They will not back down. They
Okay.
will keep going and keep coming at you. And so sometimes it's best to just end the conversation because it's going to go nowhere.
Okay.
They will
Yeah.
keep coming at you. Heck, if you're at the point in your relationship where you're having to record conversations or even record certain incidences for proof,
Oh, wow.
that alone says there's some stuff going on. Like, you definitely
Right.
shouldn't have to get to that point. But
Yeah.
even if you show it to them, they would just basically look down on you in a sense and be like, you're so pathetic. You have to go and record these things and see how they still don't take accountability for
Yeah.
their actions.
Yeah.
They will still
Or they'll
like,
probably find a way to be like,
yes,
you're misunderstanding. That's not what I meant. That's not
yes,
what I said.
yes. So that can happen. And so if anything, at that point, you're doing it for your own sanity, just to be
Mm-hmm.
like, no, I know this is exactly what you did say. I have it right here. So at that point, it's for your own sanity. But yeah, so it's best to kind of just end the conversation sometimes when you start to notice what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
because most likely it's not going to go anywhere. And yeah, I would just suggest if 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 it's time you're starting to contemplate on what you want to do about
Mm-hmm.
this relationship, if where you want to take it, maybe that's when you need to reach out for some help,
Okay.
to talk about what's going on and what are your options, what can you do.
Yeah. And going back to what a narcissist is, I was listening to this podcast, so you tell me if it's true or not.
Okay.
But they were saying that usually it comes from their childhood, that usually it was they were given too much attention or they were the center of attention always, or it was the complete opposite to where they felt ignored or neglected or like they were never good enough.
Mm.
Is that true?
Yeah, so I can see the combination of the two being right,
Mm-hmm.
both sides of it. I do think it's yeah, bit of a kind of nurture versus nature thing. So the thing about narcissists, maybe they had a narcissistic parent, so they had that model of how to treat people.
Mm,
This is how I
okay.
treat people,
Yeah.
and to get my needs met, this is what I have to do. I have to be this way.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be entitled because my parents sheltered me and just held me on this pedestal my whole life. So I am this awesome person. I do, deserve all the good, to get my way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have someone who's totally ignored on the other end,
Mm-hmm.
not experiencing any kind of love or nurture, um, from their parents, from people who they're supposed to trust, in the early
Mm-hmm.
stages of life. And therefore they develop this coldness that, that lack of empathy of not, really caring
Mm-hmm.
about anybody else's needs or wants but themselves.
And talking about parents, and you can also have a toxic relationship with your parents. It's not just with your partner, your lover, or really can be with anyone. But talking about parents, what would a narcissistic parent look like, or what would the traits be?
So kind of just, maybe they're, like you said, so there's two sides of it, right? Maybe they're cold towards their child. They are completely dismissive of their kids'
Mm,
feelings or activities and, achievements and accomplishments,
mm,
totally uninvolved.
okay.
Or you can have the super sheltering, parents,
Mm-hmm.
super dependent, where they already start that manipulation or that guilt tripping at an
Mm-hmm.
early age, to
Yeah.
start, creating that sense of, my needs and I'm important. I'm the only important one here.
Yeah.
So yeah, just not so much love and understanding and compassion in
Okay.
that. Those are some good traits and qualities to
Yeah.
have. That's going to help kids understand and have
Mhm.
empathy for other people around them.
Yeah. And, not to put anyone on the spot or anything, but me personally, my mom was like that. I'm not saying she's a narcissist. That's not what I'm saying.
Could have narcissistic traits.
Exactly,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So she was very, she was colder. She didn't acknowledge any of my accomplishments. She was very cold. So, and then I have cousins who their moms were very like that. They shelter them. They couldn't, I don't
No wrong.
n-
They're perfect in a sense.
yeah, I've seen that too. And it just, I don't think it ends well either way. I mean, I'm not saying I ended up a disaster, but,
It
it took
causes
some
some
work.
damage.
It does,
It
yeah.
affects everyone around.
Right. And then you carry that into your relationships as a grown person. And then, so yeah, her and I, it's something that we're actually going to start working on, because it's also something that, like, let's say somebody else does something and it makes her mad. And, since I was little, she would take it out on me. So now we're going to be working on that.
Good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that tells me she's not a narcissist, because the fact that she actually is willing to go get help and change.
Yeah.
A narcissist, you won't find them in therapy. They rarely come to therapy because it's not them, it's everybody else. That's the problem.
Right.
So
why would they be in therapy if they're not the problem? They're not crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're fine.
So that tells me the fact that she's willing and wanting to change and better and improve y'all's relationship. That's a good sign.
Yeah. Yeah, but I can say it did affect me in some of my past relationships. Thankfully, it's been a process for me. So now I can honestly say that I'm in the healthiest relationship I've ever been in. And I would like date guys, break up with them after 3 months, get back again, break up again. And it was just a mess. And with my current boyfriend, we've been together for 2 years straight.
Nice.
Obviously, we're not perfect. Nobody is.
No, no one is.
But
No
I can say it's the
relationship is.
healthiest. For
Very
sure.
good. And
Yeah.
it's totally normal to have conflict and arguments, say things you didn't mean, or do things, that you probably shouldn't have done in healthy relationships. That happens.
Right.
It's not about eliminating it all. The goal is, if it happens, you can then manage it, talk about it, fix it, and move on, and kind of bounce back from that together,
Right. Yeah.
Very good. Well, that's exciting. Good for you. That's good. That makes me happy.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, so I feel like all of us at some point of our lives, we've either been with a toxic person or we have been the toxic person.
For sure. My situation, I've definitely been on both sides of it. I was in a 8-year relationship, involved in an 8-year relationship, back and forth, so much toxic on both sides. And it was just unfortunate, how it all ended in a sense. And the thing is, though, when you realize and recognize it's not working for you and it's not healthy for you and it's detrimental to your, mental health, it's time that you go and get the help, and you hopefully will break from that or change your ways if you were the one prominent or, mostly the toxic one, yourselves. Own up to it. It's okay. Like, we're all human. We all make mistakes. But the fact that you're willing and wanting to get better and improve, there you go. That's all you can ask for. It's okay.
Yeah. What did you say helped you get out of that?
Yeah. So, one, I didn't even recognize or know signs of toxicity.
Okay.
That was the norm for me, because kind of like your situation, I grew up in an environment where anger was so easily expressed verbally, physically. So I experienced a bit of, some toxic parents, and no, it's not their fault. It is what it is. And we've all grown up and learned from it, and we're okay about it now. And so that was the norm for me, to have this hostility in your relationships, this, intensity, fighting, and and name calling. That was my way to protect myself, because my older sibling, my sister, she was physically bigger than me, and I couldn't go toe to toe with her. So I learned how to be verbally abusive. That was how
Okay.
I protected myself,
Mm.
to go toe to toe with her. That's how I learned to cope, in a sense,
Okay.
with what was happening.
Mhm.
And so I brought that into my relationships. It was pretty, mean, name calling.
Mm.
Would do things like hold people's pasts against them so I could
Mm.
use it later on against them
Mhm.
when they've wronged me or made me feel bad about something.
Yeah.
And so when I started to realize and understand and learn that that is toxic, that is red flags, those are behaviors that are not okay.
Mhm.
And
Right.
so when I realized that, I was like, oh, okay, dang, I didn't want to, I don't want to be doing that. I don't want to do that to other people. I
Right.
know it
Yeah.
doesn't feel good when it's done to me, and I'm over here doing that. Like, that's not cool.
Mhm.
And so then I had surrounded myself with my really good friends who were able to kind of teach me those things. In my field, I have other therapists and counselors as friends, and so it's kind of
Mhm.
cool whenever they're like, "Hey, this," and it's like, "Oh, thank you. I did not know that." And then
Yeah.
I just started getting curious of like, why am I unhappy in my relationships? Why are they not working out? And I went and got my own therapy, and I was really hoping, that the other person would have too,
Mhm.
but they didn't want the
Mm.
help. They were willing to do everything to get back together and, make it work
Mm.
except therapy. And that was like, holy cow. They do not even want to change. They don't think they have the problem. They don't even think
Right.
they're the problem. It was like, narcissist.
Mhm.
Okay, this is it. This is it.
Right.
And I was like, you know, unfortunate that it had to end, but I knew this was not going anywhere. This was not allowing me to be my best self.
Mhm.
This relationship was not um, helping me grow. And
Mhm.
and I think what happened is just I kind of outgrew the other person, and it's just like we grew apart, and it just was not going to work. And I refused to allow that behavior to continue. What he was doing to me, like
Mhm.
I was the emotional punching bag, and it's like, no,
Mm.
no, 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 like you can't do
No.
that. You cannot
Yeah.
do that. And I don't think he liked when I started to understand these things and start to
Mm.
see these are not healthy.
Right.
And instead of wanting to like grow with me, he chose to, you know, stay there. And I, it's like, I can't do this then anymore. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So there's some sadness in that,
Mm.
and, there, you heal with your friends, and you surround yourself with your, positive people, and you just know that you're going in a much healthier direction. And that's really ultimate goal, is right, living fulfilled, happy, and being
Mhm.
in healthy relationships. That's the goal. I want healthy. I don't want perfect. I want healthy.
Right.
So that was how that happened.
Do you think also talking about people not wanting to go to therapy, do you think, because I have a feeling it's mostly men. Am I right or am I wrong?
It's more likely that women will go to therapy than men. Yes.
Why do you think that is?
I think they have fallen under society's um, pressures of this is the way a man should be,
Mm.
and a man does not express their feelings. The man does not talk about their feelings.
Mm.
A man doesn't even have feelings. Some people actually really believe they don't have feelings,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Being detached or not being in tune with your feelings is not the same as not having them.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And so society, in a sense, or how they grew up, probably it came from their, you know, parents. Stop, be a big boy. Yeah.
Mm.
So it's just a lot of these roles that have been put on to men, that
Mhm.
they're supposed to be a certain way, and therapy is just not something that men do or go to. And
Mm.
so it's a stigma that they, you know, um, it's been around forever, and that's why I think it is a little bit more difficult for men to reach out and seek for help. They want to get it done themselves. They're the
Mm.
man. They should figure it out.
Yeah.
They don't ask for help. They don't, it's just
Yeah.
so much of, yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with just societies.
Yeah. But if a man really wants to make it work at the end of the day, he will put his ego aside and he will do whatever it takes.
Absolutely. I think so.
Yeah, for
Because,
sure.
yeah, like I feel like a healthy relationship means you don't necessarily have to have the same exact values, but if you value that relationship, you will do whatever is valuable or whatever is important to that person.
Mhm.
So that's to me what healthy means.
Yeah, I agree. Going back to what you were saying about the verbal abuse and all of that. Well, myself and I know some of my family members, we grew up in a similar uh type of environment. So I used to fight a lot. I used to like it was almost like I had that need to be
Mm.
fighting with someone. Or sometimes something would happen and I'm like, I need to find someone to fight with and that person was there, so
Yeah.
that's who I would fight with. And I remember I started dating this guy, it was years ago, and I had just gotten out of a very toxic relationship. I was a toxic one. So I went into this other relationship and I was in the mood for fighting. And he wasn't fighting back. He was just,
That drove you crazy.
oh, he did. I'm like, fight with me.
Yes.
He's
Yeah.
like, what is wrong with you? And
Mm-hmm.
so when dating him, obviously it didn't turn out to be a good relationship, but I can say I learned a lot from it because it was something very different from what I was used to.
Mm-hmm.
And he grew up differently. So I was able to see a different perspective, a different mentality.
Yeah, that relationships really don't have to be, like you said, so hostile and intense and,
Yeah.
this passionate about, things and whatnot. Shoot, I'll take peace and just chill any day,
Yes.
every day.
Yeah.
Peace.
Yes. And that, yeah, that's me now. I'm like peace, love and
Yes.
peace. That's all
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want.
yeah. So it's
Yeah.
okay. We all, I think have toxic traits or, tendencies. But if we can
Mhm.
recognize them and acknowledge them, own up to them, and then fix them, and then change it.
Yeah. I would say something else that I learned that is stuck with me too is if I'm gonna say something that I know I'm gonna regret later, I'm just gonna walk away. I'm just not gonna say it.
Yeah, that's good. That prevents, in a sense, it's prevention of
Mhm.
things going somewhere that maybe they don't really need to go. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm very flooded with emotions right now. I feel super angry and upset. Probably not going to say the nicest thing right now, so let me
Mhm.
walk away from the situation that's fueling this anger. Let me
Right.
calm down. Let me calm down, and then we'll talk about it. It's going to
Mhm.
be there. The problem will
Yeah.
be there. So just, we're not in a space, though, when we're super, super emotional to solve anything. So let's calm down first.
Mhm. And talking about peace, I've heard, I don't know if it's true, but I've heard people say that when you find the one, it's not all the butterflies and all those crazy feelings. It's the one where you feel at peace.
I think that's accurate. I really do.
Yeah.
I really do. Like I said, even in healthy relationships, there's going to be conflict, but um, if you notice, you start to get better at just conflict management.
Mhm.
The arguments are probably going to last so much quicker than what they would have in the beginning of the relationship.
Right.
I mean, and then you really, literally get the argument out. Okay,
Mhm.
talk about it. All right, move on. And it's like, an hour ago,
Yeah.
y'all were probably really upset, and then now y'all are fine because
Yeah.
it's just so it's a skill. The more
Right.
you practice that skill and you get better at it, the more your relationship improves.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And something that, a lot of people, we carry our traumas usually from our childhood. So let's say somebody just met someone and they're carrying things from their childhood. Something that I did because I knew I needed work. I went through therapy and I said, I want to fix these issues so I don't bring him into my relationship and I don't bring him to my future kids. And then my partner did the same thing. He's like, well, I want to know, about if there's anything wrong with
Awesome.
me from my childhood.
Hmm.
So I think it's important for you to work on yourself in order to be right for each other.
Absolutely. You work on yourself, you get better and you improve. So with the time that when the time comes and you are in that relationship already or you haven't met that person, you are your best self for each other.
Exactly. Yes.
Totally agree.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
actually follow this girl and she talks about how she's like, when you're single, she's like, focus on working on yourself and becoming the better version of yourself. She's
Yeah.
like, don't be going around dating all kinds of different people. She was like,
Yeah.
focus on you. She was like, the right person will come when you're okay with You know,
Yeah,
if
when you're ready.
when you're ready, exactly.
Yeah, I always say, I tell people that are single and whatnot,
Mhm.
I always tell them, well, just focus on you because your Mr. Right is getting right now. He's getting right, for
Yeah.
you.
I
And
like
and
that.
and so, use this time, have
Mhm.
fun, yes, do
Of course,
whatever, but
yeah.
you really put emphasis and focus on growing though, and figuring out where areas that you can improve. So
Mhm.
exactly what she said, you can be your best self.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So on Instagram, I had posted different, what damaged feminine energy looks like and damaged masculine energy looks like. Can you
Mhm.
talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I hadn't actually heard that term until I
Mhm.
saw that post. And what it sounds like is someone who, whether male or female, oh wait, sorry, the damaged part.
Mhm.
There's maybe some blind spots that they're not aware of. That's
Mhm.
maybe causing or holding them back from their full potential, or from their best relationship, or from
Mhm.
their happiest selves in a sense.
Mhm.
And so first we got to figure out and identify where are the problems at in my life. What am I struggling with?
Mhm.
And sometimes, though, it can be very confusing, and it's harder to see within when it's you're the person. And so sometimes
Mhm.
having that other perspective, that outside perspective, like a therapist or a coach who
Mhm.
can see objectively what's going on, I think that would be super helpful in finding those blind spots or the damaged parts in a sense.
Mhm.
So once you identify the problem, then you know how to treat it, or you know how to fix it in a sense.
Yeah.
Um, so um, does that answer your question, or like, so
Yeah, or
you
we
want me
can
to give
go a little bit
examples? Yeah,
into it.
tell me.
I
Okay.
don't have my phone with me right now, so I don't remember what all it said, but I remember insecurity was one of them.
Okay. Yeah.
So we talked
Oh,
about
okay.
jealousy, but we didn't talk about where that comes from.
Most likely it's coming from a place of insecurity within yourself somewhere.
Mhm.
Whether it reminds you of something you did in the past that makes you feel yucky about yourself, or whether it's something that's a weakness you have and you want to and wish to improve that.
Mhm.
And it's something you don't have or don't possess and you wish you did. And so by seeing something else or seeing that your partner's getting it, it made you feel insecure or jealous, or
Mm.
maybe it was something that exposed, yeah, one of your flaws or something about yourself. But I think that's what's beautiful about us, the flaws and all, everything,
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
And sometimes those insecurities come from maybe that person was cheated on in the past.
mhm.
What would you advise to someone who did and now she's trying to move on and not carry those insecurities into her next relationship?
hmm So I think it's important to understand, yes, where is this coming from? Is it previous messages, challenges I faced in my last relationship, and I'm just carrying that into this relationship? That's not fair, for this person, because this new person had nothing to do with my past. It's not
Right.
helpful to compare my past to this new person. Like, it's not giving that person a fair chance, a fair shot,
Mhm.
and that's you wouldn't want them to do that to you, right?
Right.
And so you cannot bring that onto that person. So recognize that you're even doing that, or if that's what's happening, and
Mhm.
then you can truly maybe put that aside and focus on behaviors and actions that are being done by this new person to really show you, do they really care about me, or is this really something I have to worry about with them? Where's the evidence that they're cheating on me? Like, you have to really then challenge your thoughts, because they're probably
Mhm.
negative, and
Right.
in the past, because of your experiences, which understandable, I get it,
Mhm.
but if you want this to really work, then you're gonna have to learn how to separate that,
Right.
heal, work on that,
Mhm.
and you can still be in that new relationship. But just know, if you don't heal and you don't work through that past stuff,
Mhm.
it's going to show up somewhere down the road.
Yeah. And I think especially when you go through a few relationships, you get to a point to where you're like, okay, I know what I want and I know what I don't want and I know what I'll put up with and I know what I won't put up with.
Hmm.
So I had my first podcast. It was on relationships, right?
Hmm.
So I was talking to somebody about this, and I was telling him how what inspired me to start it, and I was telling him about the girl on YouTube that I follow,
Hmm.
and I was telling him how she says that whenever you enter in your relationship, make sure that you set your standards. You let that person know this is what I expect, this is what I will put up with, and this is what I won't. Are you in or are you out, basically?
Yeah.
And he was so surprised. Like he had never heard of somebody having standards. He was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "You don't just go with the flow." I was like, "No, you don't just go with the flow."
You can, but it's probably not gonna, that's gonna end in a dead end relationship, or it's not gonna go anywhere probably.
Right.
Or,
Mhm.
versus the way you said it, you're being upfront and you're being clear
Mhm.
about who you are and what you're cool,
Exactly.
what you're okay with, and what you're not okay with.
Mhm.
Um, and your intentions are clear.
Right.
There's no beating around the bush. There's no cloudiness or vagueness, and no, because we're not here to waste anybody's time
Mhm.
and energy. You know,
Right.
I don't think that that's fair.
Yeah.
So when you go into something, go in with the intentions of, like you said, letting it be known what you're okay with, what you're not okay with, and what you expect out of this relationship, or where this is gonna go.
Right. Because I feel when people don't do that, they're kind of like, maybe they're scared, like, oh, if I tell him, maybe he'll,
Stop
that they'll
talking
turn
to
him
me,
off,
or
or
he won't
yeah,
like
stop
me.
talking to me.
Mhm.
Yeah. But it's like, but that's gonna save you so much time
You're
because
getting
then
what you want.
exactly.
You're getting to what you want. You're
Yeah.
weeding out all the stuff that you don't want.
Mhm.
And if they don't like what you are putting out, then that's not your person.
Mhm.
Then that's just not your person. That's okay.
Exactly.
It
Yeah.
doesn't make that person wrong. It doesn't make your beliefs and values, or whatever it is, your expectations wrong, or your standards wrong.
Mhm.
They just don't match or align, and
Right.
that's okay. So I'll go on with my way and you go on your way. That's totally fine.
Yeah. And I feel when people don't do that, they end up feeling frustrated.
Hurt, someone gets ghosted, someone just, oh, I didn't know we were this serious, or again,
Mm.
confusion, just there's no clarity, there's no honesty, there's frustration. Exactly.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's how people end up in situationships and then they're like, "Oh my god, men are the worst or women are the worst." And it's like, "Well,
You just picked the wrong one
yeah. Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
mean they're all bad. So,
Mhm.
mhm.
And I think that's another way to turn a relationship toxic is like you had the standards in your head, but you didn't communicate them. So now you're there frustrated and he's
Yeah.
doing things or she's doing things that are making you mad and
Yes, they don't know because you don't say anything. Like,
right.
how are they supposed to know? We can't read each other's minds. So
Mhm.
speak up. Yes,
Mm.
absolutely. I agree with that. Hmm.
Yeah. And then just to talk a little bit about social media because I feel like that plays a big role nowadays.
It
I
is. It's
spoke
everywhere.
yeah. I spoke with Aaron about it too, but I also wanted to get your point of view. He spoke very highly of you, which is,
I
why I
know. I
invited.
saw it. Yeah, I saw that video, and I was like, he's so sweet. Like
Yeah.
man, like yeah, he's awesome. Hmm.
So we talked about so social media, and obviously now it makes it so easy for people to talk to other people
Hmm.
and I guess also cheat. And then it also, you go back to people's values. Well, what do you consider cheating? And then how far are you going to let it go? And simple things like liking pictures of inappropriate, pictures. We talked about all that. So just wanted to get your take on it.
Um. So, social media can be used for good, for greatness.
Hmm.
Definitely don't deny that. But it can also be very negative and not helpful for
Hmm.
ourselves if
Right.
we're not using it responsibly. So in a relationship, this is actually something that really happened in my old toxic relationship.
Hmm.
He liked a picture that was very distasteful, and I did not point out or attack him. I just simply wanted to address and let him know how it made me feel. Him
Okay.
him doing that.
Right.
And so I very assuredly said, I know you don't like this woman. I know you don't love her. I know you don't want to have anything to do with her. I said, however, when you like pictures like this, it's very hurtful.
Hmm.
I feel disrespected when this happens. Um, And at first, he seemed to understand and get it. And I was like, all right, sweet. I, expressed how I felt very firmly and very assertively and
Mhm.
non-threatening, non-attacking.
Mhm.
And then sure enough, though, just like I said, the narcissist will not let that go.
Mm.
And so not even 10, 15 minutes later, I get this paragraph of a text and just
What?
attacking my past, bringing up my
Mm.
past and completely ignoring and dismissing what I had brought up, which was
Right.
how it made me feel, like what you did. That's
Mm.
all I wanted to do.
Right.
and
Mm.
um and so yeah, it just led into this massive blowout, and I was like, man, okay. At first I thought, man, I'll never be able to kind of just tell or express how I feel to anybody. But when you're in a healthy relationship, like I
Mhm.
said, you can express how you feel. And if there's a concern that something your partner's doing, if you feel safe to go and talk about it, it's usually going to end very well. The other person's going to be willing to
Mhm.
listen, validate how you feel, apologize for what they did,
Right.
and rectify it. How do I
Mhm.
how do I fix this? I'm going to get better. I'm not going to do that. I definitely am not going to do that anymore because I know how
Mhm.
that makes you feel. I don't want to make you feel like that. So it'll
Yeah.
end well in a healthy relationship, but in
Yeah.
not so healthy relationships, yeah, it's not going to end well. And
Yeah.
there's something else I wanted to say about it, but I think that's it though. Yeah, that's the main point.
Yeah.
So social media can be fine, and if you can actually talk about it with your partner, it shouldn't cause any issues or problems. And so, I think I shared that one story with Aaron, and I mean, I don't think he's ever been that kind of a guy though that likes all these females' pictures at all. Like,
Yeah.
hell, he works with tons of bikini models, and I have no fears, no, worries that something's gonna happen. And
Yeah.
if even the slightest thing I felt uncomfortable or
Mhm.
uncertain or not so happy about or felt disrespected about anything that he did, I know I could
Mhm.
totally tell him and talk to him about it, and he would be more than willing and happy to fix or change or do something. But he doesn't even do that, so I'm fortunate. I
To
don't
deal
worry
with
about
that.
that. I don't deal
Yeah.
with that. Yeah.
That's good.
Mhm.
And for anyone listening who has never been in that type of relationship, in a healthy relationship, know that if you feel a certain way and you communicate it to your partner, the healthy look, the way it would look, is the partner understands your feelings. They
Mhm.
validate them. They understand that maybe they didn't do it with that intention. A lot of the times that's the case,
Mhm.
but they understand how it made you feel, so they don't do it again because of how it makes you feel. On the
Absolutely.
other hand, if you get attacked, if you get called crazy,
Or you're just too sensitive.
mm-hmm,
You have no right to be upset about that. Like no one
yeah,
else would get mad at that. It's that the minute you do that, you're totally just dismissing that person's emotional world, and that's crushing. That's like so harmful. Not
mm-hmm,
to feel or to have that happen to you. It's very dang. And the realization of that person when they do that,
mm-hmm,
it's like you never thought that they would do that, but the minute
mm-hmm,
they do it, again, if it was the first time or, they didn't know that they did that, you can address that. And then if they really see like, oh, dang, I did dismiss your feelings. I'm so sorry. And they apologize
yeah,
for it and they recognize and own up to it, take accountability for it.
mm-hmm,
And that's cool. We're cool. All right. You hear me. So now I know you hear me, and you just probably got carried away with your emotions and got in defense mode,
yeah,
and that's what you knew to do was just say you're too sensitive or
mm-hmm,
but it continues and it's a pattern. There's
yeah,
more going on. There's something more going
for sure, yeah. And I feel like sometimes I've been on that side where I'm like, I don't want to accept, and then I'm like, no, I have to. I have to understand. Like,
on.
I made you feel this way. I'm sorry.
I know it happens. It
Yeah.
happens. It happens. Even the best of people that are understanding. I'm a
Mhm.
therapist. Like I'm very understanding, and I'm very willing to hear how you feel. Like that's kind of the first thing I even look for and listen to is
Mhm.
what are they feeling? Okay, let me make sure I validate that and let them
Mhm.
know that they know that I know or whatever.
Yeah.
But in personal friendships and things, I mean, sometimes you get to turn that off too, though, right? That therapy thing
Right.
goes off, but it
Yeah.
kind of doesn't because that's just who I am as a person. Like I am going to be validating and listening and understanding and empathic.
Mhm.
So, but there's times where I instantly kind of just it slips, you know, and it happens. And I think like, man, just quit being all a weak, you know, quit being weak sauce, you know, or something.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, that's not right. That's not okay.
Yeah. Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, I mean, I think we covered a lot today. Some good
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
I
And
think so too.
I just want to say if you know, you're experiencing maybe some toxic behaviors or patterns in your relationships, just know that you don't have to put up with it. Like you really don't. You deserve to be happy. You deserve just as much success in your relationships as anybody else. And yeah, you deserve to be fulfilled and loved most, you know, and foremost. Yeah, and find your person that you're truly happy with and harmonious with, and it will totally make a difference in all the other areas in your life. When you're
Mm-hmm.
happy and you're in a wonderful, healthy relationship, it does show in your work.
Mm-hmm.
It shows in your friendships. It
Yeah.
shows in yourself, just who you are,
Mm-hmm.
and all other areas in your life. So know that yeah, you don't have to put up with shit, and so
Yeah.
learn about it. Uh, you know, talk to a professional if you need to. Reach out for help, and hopefully break free from a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And how can they find you?
On Instagram, Andrea Elevating You, and yeah, you can reach out, DM me, send me a message, and I'll gladly get back to you.
All right. Well, thank you for being here today and talking to us about this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. If you like this podcast, share it. Maybe it will be of help to someone you know. And if you don't want to miss any of our podcasts, follow us on social media and subscribe to our channel. Built from the Inside Out wants to give you a 10% discount on your next supplement purchase at www.bcnsubs.com. Just use code BUILT at checkout. Thank you so much for listening.